Yesterday on RGT News, we talked about Nintendo Switch Firmware Update 6.0. It looks like this will be happening very soon, and I think that sort of makes sense, honestly. A lot of us are expecting a new firmware update to come out for the Nintendo Switch. Obviously, with the Nintendo Switch Online service launching in the second half of the month, we are now in September. More than likely, some things will need to be updated and changed for this Nintendo Switch Online service, so we pretty much expected a firmware update to come about. And we talked yesterday about basically some things that were being talked about involving this firmware update. Well, now it looks like data miners have actually found some actual stuff that will definitely be involved in this firmware update. Now, it remains to be seen if this is everything involving the firmware update, but from what we've seen, there's actually some pretty interesting things. There's some things I want to talk about here, and some things that I kind of want to wonder where these updates are going to be involved, if it will ever come to a Nintendo Switch firmware update, because I think that if this is everything, there's a few things that are definitely still lacking when it comes to the Nintendo Switch. So what is the Nintendo Switch Firmware 6.0 all about, and what should you expect with this? Sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, make sure you enter that Monster Hunter giveaway I'm doing as well in the comment section down below. Look for that pinned comment, and let's jump into Nintendo Switch Firmware 6.0.
Hey, RGT85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my God, it's Stevie Richards!
So it looks like the main function of Nintendo Switch Firmware 6.0 is of course going to be for the online service, adding in different features with that online service, and then adding in the cloud saves, which are a thing that has been a long time coming for the Nintendo Switch. Of course, we have talked about how Nintendo has sort of been a bit, shy about saying what games are going to be supporting this, whether or not this will be an automatic thing, whether it's just for future games, what you can do with your previous games. Is it just going to be first-party games? Do developers have to go in and do something to allow for cloud saves for their games? But that will definitely be one of the features of Nintendo Switch Firmware 6.0. What's interesting is there's actually a tagline that sort of goes along with this now that data miners have found. It says, more games, more features, more fun. Now, that's pretty interesting to me. More games obviously will be alluding to the Super Nintendo and NES stuff. Now, obviously, we only have NES stuff at the launch of the Nintendo Switch Online service. There's supposedly going to be 20 games revealed for the NES. We already know about 10. The other 10 are still up in the air. We, of course, also know what those games will have. There will be additional online features. You can do voice chat through that awesome Nintendo Switch voice chat app system for your phone, because that's what everyone loves and that's what everyone needs. But there's still 10 games we don't know anything about for the NES that will be coming supposedly on launch day for the Nintendo Switch Online service. I'm kind of wondering when we should expect to see those things. There have been lots of rumors that a Nintendo Direct will be happening within the next 2 weeks. I do hope it is when I'm in town, because I'll be traveling to a few conventions in the next 2 weeks. But hey, hopefully it happens when I'm here so that we can talk about it. But I expect them to sort of talk more about the Nintendo Online service, talk more about the 10 other games and maybe the future. Now, more features. You're getting some more features with this Nintendo Switch Online service. Obviously, the cloud save data. You still have the Nintendo Switch mobile app for Splatoon already, so that's not really a new feature or a more feature, as they would say in this. And of course, you have things like the NES games. So I suppose that is a bit of a more feature, but I would like to see more features with this, because I think that it is a bit lacking in terms of overall features right now for the Nintendo Switch Online service. And then more fun. Fun is subjective, obviously they're trying to promote playing online games, online NES games with other people. I'm really curious to see how the latency is with that. I really hope that they include some games like Ice Hockey and Blades of Steel and maybe Tecmo Bowl, maybe some more third-party games or third-party games in general, because right now it looks like it's all first-party NES titles, and there's so many great third-party NES titles that would be awesome with online multiplayer, Double Dragon 2, things like that. A lot of great beat-em-ups on the system. So I hope that they find a way to incorporate third-party games in this as well. Maybe the 10 NES games we haven't heard about are going to be third-party games, because that would be really sweet in my opinion. Moving on, there is going to be new player profile icons from Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, 2 for Toad and Toadette, and 1 for Wingo and Dragodon. That's cool. I love Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. It's an awesome game on the Wii U. It's an awesome game on the Nintendo Switch. It's probably pretty good on the Nintendo 3DS as well. I obviously have not picked up the 3DS version of that game because I don't need to triple dip on that. I don't really play my 3DS all that much, but it's good to see them adding in more profile icons. You would think they would add in more though. There's so many different characters, and just to add in simply, you know, a total of 6, if there's 2 for Toad, 2 for Toadette, 1 for Wingo, and 1 for Dragodon, you would think they would be able to add some more into the game and more into the feature set for this, because it's a paid service now. You should be adding in more icons. You should be adding in themes as well. The most interesting thing that data miners found within this update is something that I don't think anyone has talked about or really thought about when it came to the Nintendo Switch. There have been official icons for the following controllers added to the Nintendo Switch firmware: NES, Super NES, Famicom, and Super Famicom. So it looks like Nintendo will be introducing some classic controllers potentially for the Nintendo Switch that you can use with these Nintendo Switch online service games. And that really starts to make me think, you know, what exactly is going on with this? Obviously, if they're including in the Super Nintendo stuff, we have not seen any Super Nintendo games announced for the Nintendo Switch online service. When it first launched, when they first started talking about this, they did mention Super Nintendo games, and then quickly that just sort of went away. And now it's all been NES games. That's what the focus has been on. But if they're adding in Super Nintendo and Super Famicom controllers used on your Nintendo Switch, that makes it pretty interesting and means that probably we'll see these Super Nintendo games come to the Nintendo Switch sooner than later. But what really is curious about this is, what are these controllers going to be? Obviously, it's not going to be something that you used on the NES Classic. Are they going to be doing brand new controllers for the Nintendo Switch for the NES, Super Famicom, Super Nintendo, and Famicom? I really went about that in a weird way. But yes, what are they going to do with that? How are they going to connect? Are they going to be wireless? Are they going to connect, you know, directly into the USB slot or something? I think that really remains to be seen what this is going to entail. But really, that's everything that has been found in this data mining. And I definitely think the controller thing is the most interesting thing. But I definitely think there's some things that we need to talk about as well, because it looks like that messaging system thing that was supposed to be in this update may actually not be in this update. And really, that just makes things so archaic in my opinion. You know, you're paying for an online service where you have to use a voice chat app through your phone. You can't use it natively on the system, and there's no way to message people. It's like, you could do this on the original Xbox. Like, you know, nearly 20 years ago, the original Xbox had these sort of basic features where you were able to message people. You know, what about party systems? When are we going to see some party systems? Is there going to be party systems introduced, or is it still going to be natively to these games? Of course, Fortnite, like I always mention, is a free-to-play game on the Nintendo Switch that allows people to join your parties. You can link up with up to 3 other people very easily, and it has native voice chat. It does not require the Nintendo Switch cell phone app. So things like that just sort of raise some red flags with this Nintendo Switch online service. If this is everything that's included on day one, I definitely think some people will be left with a lot to be desired, and I think some people may be upset. Yes, the NES games are going to be super fun. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what 20 games are available and how those games will work, you know, the online features of it, because I think that could be really fun, especially if they throw in some third-party games, you know, some third-party sports games, some third-party beat-em-up games. There's so many awesome NES games to choose from. And then when you start to think about the Super Nintendo, you know, what if we get stuff like Super Mario Kart with online play? Like, that would be absolutely awesome. But when are those Super Nintendo games going to be coming to the system is the question that still remains. But I think that there's still more questions than answers when it comes to Nintendo Switch Firmware 6.0. From what we've seen so far here, it looks like, you know, more features, more games, more fun. That's a good tagline, but you have to follow up that tagline with actual features. You have to follow up that tagline with actual games. Right now, it looks a bit paltry. I am hoping that there's still additional data that has not been mined yet, that there's still stuff that hasn't been found yet when it comes to Nintendo Switch Online Firmware 6.0, because I definitely think that there's some room for improvement. The NES and SNES controllers thing is very interesting though. I definitely want to see how that will come to fruition, what these controllers will be priced at, and how they will work with the Nintendo Switch, you know, itself. Do you really need these controllers? Are they going to be more of a novelty? Like, I may pick one up just to check it out and review it to see the build quality and all that, but it doesn't seem like a real necessity, especially when you have things like the Joy-Cons on the Nintendo Switch, which should, you know, suffice for most Nintendo Switch online service games. You know, these NES games, these SNES games. Obviously, SNES games require a bit more button management and button use, but you should be able to do most of these things on the NES games with just a single Joy-Con if you really need to. So I don't know. I think this firmware update is definitely positive. It's definitely a step in the right direction. Obviously, cloud saves is a huge thing. Adding in a few more icons, I guess that's cool as well. But I definitely want to see more. I want to see more from Nintendo with 6.0. I want to see more firmware updates, and I definitely think that they need to do a Nintendo Direct where they cover some of this stuff, where they sort of lay it all out, because there's still many questions left with this online service, and it's supposed to be launching in a few weeks, and there are still so many questions left that it kind of just makes you scratch your head. But that's all we have for Nintendo Switch Firmware 6.0 update. Hopefully there will be some additional stuff. If it comes out with just this though, I guess there's enough stuff to be excited about. Obviously the games and playing these NES games online are going to be the most fun thing, but let me know in the comments section down below what you think of this supposed Nintendo Switch Firmware 6.0 leak. It looks like this is pretty concrete evidence, but you know, I won't say it's 100% sure, but 99.9 more than likely these are features will be included. And as always, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to enter that Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate giveaway in the comment section down below. There will be a pinned comment, very easy to enter. You just have to click the thing and then you're pretty much entered in to win. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.